Good afternoon, and thanks for stopping by Across the Fence. I'm Keith Silva. Ticks have been in the news lately. The last few weeks, national news outlets have been reporting about a spike in ER visits in the Northeast due to tick bites. In a few minutes, Ben Willis talks with a doc at the University of Vermont Medical Center about the development of a vaccine for tick bites. Before that, we have another story from Ben about how researchers at the University of Vermont Extension have been clocking ticks this summer to find out their effects on farmers and cattle. Here's Ben with a tick check.
We are at a farm in Vermont today and we are sampling for ticks.
UVM Extension Professor Dr. Bryony Sands is leading a summer-long tick survey across 20 dairy and beef farms.
We are doing a project with dairy farmers and beef farmers across Vermont, and we also have collaborators in New York as well. As we're all aware, ticks are on the rise, especially in the Northeast, and the diseases that they carry are also becoming more prevalent. So the aim of this project is to work with farmers to try and sort of assess tick risk on their pastures, so risk to themselves from ticks and also risk to their cattle.
The goal is to give farmers practical, science-based methods to protect their animals and themselves from ticks.
We are sampling various different habitats on farms, so open pastures, woodland habitat, brush and edge, and we're trying to find where the areas of highest risk are for farmers and whether there are management strategies relating to pasture management and also grazing management that can help to reduce the risk to themselves and the cows.
The team uses a fairly simple method to collect their samples.
We were doing the blanket dragging technique, so we have a white flannel sheet which is 1 meter by 1 meter, so a meter squared, and we drag that over the vegetation in a transect. Our transects are 50 meters, and we flip the blanket over every 5 meters. And ticks will attach to it because it sort of mimics a passing animal. So we can flip the blanket over and see if we have collected any ticks from that area of vegetation.
Despite filming in mid-July, when tick activity typically starts to drop off, the team had no trouble collecting samples.
So that's a male black-legged tick.
So we have found a lot of ticks. We found black-legged ticks, or you might have heard them called deer ticks. They seem to be more associated with woodland areas and brushy habitats. And then we've also found a lot of the American dog tick. That seems to be, obviously this is, the project's still ongoing, but it seems to be more prevalent where there's sort of ponds or areas of water. 2 of our farms in New York State, we're collaborating with Cornell on this, and they have also found the Asian longhorn tick, which is an invasive species, on a couple of farms there as well. So we're really monitoring which species we're finding. These ticks do transmit diseases. Obviously the black-legged tick transmits Lyme to humans. It's also of concern to cattle because it transmits anaplasmosis to cattle. And we will be sending all these ticks that we collect off for analysis so that we can see if they're carrying diseases as well. I think in terms of the human health risk, being aware of where the high risk areas are, unmanaged brushy areas are very much more likely to have, especially the black-legged tick, wearing long trousers, doing tick checks. In terms of risk to cattle, slightly more complicated, but I think it really is about sort of just being aware. If you're seeing ticks on the cows, then just having that in your mind as a possible risk that there might be tick-borne disease. The symptoms can be quite sort of diverse: anemia, jaundice, and general weakness in animals. Just having that in your mind, okay, I am seeing ticks, so there is a possibility of tick-borne disease here.
Dr. Sands notes that as Vermont's winters grow shorter, ticks are becoming more common across the state.
I think Vermont has the highest prevalence of Lyme in the US, actually, and There's a number of reasons, obviously changing climates, specifically relating to how many sort of freeze days we get. I think now we're getting about a week less freeze days, and that really can increase tick numbers because their hosts, like small mammals, are going to be active earlier in the season, and ticks can actually start questing, as soon as it gets a few degrees above freezing, they can start questing.
But Sands points out it's not just climate change that's driving the rise in ticks.
The other thing is sort of habitat fragmentation, urbanization. That kind of reduces the habitat for predators of small mammal hosts such as mice and chipmunks. So if there's more mice and chipmunk around, it's providing more hosts for the immature stages of the ticks, sort of early in the season again, and that can really contribute to increasing numbers. So a couple of reasons there.
Thanks to the work of Dr. Bryony Sands and her team, farmers in the Northeast may soon have practical tools to reduce tick risks on their farms and better protect both cattle and community health. In Bristol, Vermont, I'm Ben Willis with Across the Fence.
Thanks, Ben. Now to a story we aired earlier this year with Dr. Benjamin Lee. He's a pediatric infectious disease specialist and an associate professor of pediatrics at UVM. He's been a co-investigator on a Lyme vaccine trial, overseeing the pediatric portion of the trial. Once again, here's Ben.
So in the past couple of decades, Lyme disease has really spread like wildfire throughout large portions of the northern US. It's also a significant public health problem in Europe and Canada as well. And so we see a lot more Lyme disease now. And with that, there's been greater recognition for some of the potential complications of Lyme disease and the need for a safe and effective vaccine.
What is the major concern around Lyme disease, and why would a vaccine be so significant?
So Lyme disease is notorious for causing a wide range of potential clinical manifestations and symptoms, some of which are very mild, but some of which can be quite severe. So it can be from something, when we see it in the early localized stage of the disease, it's just the rash. But as the disease progresses, people can have more severe symptoms, including fever, body aches, and more specific organ complications such as meningitis, inflammation of the heart, other neurologic symptoms, and ultimately a particular form of arthritis. So there are a number of potentially severe complications, and that causes a very high public health and medical burden in this country and elsewhere where Lyme disease is endemic. And unfortunately, as anybody who lives in this region can tell you, preventing tick bites or preventing ticks from crawling on you or your loved ones, especially for folks who value being outdoors in our region, it's really, really hard. And so even if you're being really diligent about trying to protect yourself from tick bites, doing all the right things, is just really hard. So having a vaccine that will provide that added layer of protection, I think will go a really long ways towards addressing the problem of Lyme disease.
We're now entering the phase 3 trial for this vaccine. What does phase 3 trial mean? What's that mean? And what's been learned, if you can share that, through the phase 1 and 2 trials?
So folks may remember some of these terms from the COVID trials that we all sort of went through recently. But the different phases of a clinical trial are designed to address specific questions related to the use of the vaccine or the medication or device that's under study. So the earliest phase is phase 1. Those are small studies that are designed to look really at mainly safety. Is this something that's safe to use in people? Phase 2 trials then are slightly larger. They also look at safety. Pretty much every study will always look at safety. But then phase 2 trials starts to get into questions such as what is the correct dose, what's the right way to use this potential product. People will start to gather data on how immunogenic the vaccine is, and potentially whether or not the vaccine provides clinical protection. Mm-hmm. But it's really the phase 3 trial, which is the largest, usually the largest trial, that's really designed to answer the question, does this vaccine work? Not necessarily does it provide a good antibody response, but does it provide clinical protection from the disease that we're studying. So as you mentioned, this current vaccine candidate is in phase 3 trial. And so what this trial hopes to show is that the vaccine is actually effective at preventing Lyme disease in patients who have received it. Now, after phase 3, there's also a phase known as a phase 4 trial. Those are trials that are conducted after a product has been licensed and approved for use, and those are oftentimes designed to provide ongoing information about safety, different ways of using the product, et cetera.
So here's the big question, is when will the phase 3 trial be complete, and what's next? Attached to that is, when will the public be able to access this vaccine?
So the trials are scheduled to be complete by the end of 2025. They were designed to go over 2 consecutive Lyme seasons. So this is currently the first, for our group here, this is the first Lyme season, and then next summer will be the second Lyme season, and then folks will be done with the study. And so by the end of 2025, the trial should be complete, and then obviously it takes some time to perform the analyses on the results. But the goal, at least as to my current understanding, is that they're hoping that if the vaccine proves to be safe and efficacious, which most of us expect that it will, that they hope to be able to file applications for approval sometime starting in 2026. So then it will need to go through that regulatory process. So realistically, we're still looking probably a few years out before this vaccine might be available to the public. But it's been a long time coming already, so I think that that time should be here before we know it. And I do think, I mentioned the concept of Lyme seasons. It used to be that there were these very well-defined seasons where we would expect to see Lyme disease, which was when starting in the spring into the summer and fall when it was warm out. That's because for a very long time, the winters would stay cold and the ticks would not be active. But in recent years, it does appear to be that the ticks may be active many more months out of the year than several decades ago. And so the Lyme seasons are probably just going to get ever longer and longer. And so that itself then will add to the public, the burden of disease at the public health level.
From protection to prevention, the fight against Lyme disease is advancing on all fronts. At the University of Vermont, I'm Ben Willis with Across the Fence.